Do you want to learn how to build an AI voice assistant slash agent that you can call on the phone like this?
Tech with Tim's merch shop. I'm here to help with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you.
My order number is 101.
Thanks. Let me look up your order number. Please stay tuned. Hi there. I see the order under your name. Your order number 101 has been delivered. It was shipped to 123 Main.
Great, so you guys get the idea, but the point is I'm going to show you in this video how to make an advanced AI voice assistant slash agent that you can literally call on the phone for free in just a few minutes, or that you can use from something like a React website or really any kind of application that you want. So for this project, we're going to be using something called Vapi or Voice API. Now, I've worked with them previously on this channel and you guys really liked the video, so I asked them to sponsor another video, so a big thank you to them for sponsoring this content. Now, with that said, this is free. You don't need to pay for this if you just want to work with it in the tutorial, and Vapi's free plan will give you 1,000 free minutes every single month, so you can experiment with the platform and see if you like it. But the point is, this is a super easy way to make some really cool voice assistants and agents, and it connects really nicely with code. So to give you a quick summary of what we'll do here, we're going to make a new account with Vapi, we're going to build the agent using their editor online, we're then going to connect to the agent from code, and then I'm going to show you how we can build a custom Python API that the agent can use to grab some data. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So go to this page, I'll link it in the description, and make a new account. Now I'm just going to go to Open Dashboard because I already have an account here, and you can see this is what the dashboard looks like, or really this is what the dashboard looks like, kind of an overview of all of your stats. Now once you've created that account, what you're going to want to do is go to this Assistants button within the Build tab, and from Assistants, this is where we're going to make a new assistant. Now there's multiple ways to make assistants here in Vapi, and I want to show you kind of the more traditional way, or what they had previously, and then the new way that we're going to use, which is something called a workflow. So this here is the configuration for a previous agent that I actually built on this channel. I'll leave the video on screen in case you want to check it out, because we got a lot more advanced and I went into a lot of the code integrations, which we're not going to dive into too deeply in this video because I already have that video guide. Anyways, the point is, you can see that we have this really long system prompt where we have to pretty much specify everything that we want the agent to do. Now this works usually pretty well, but it can be difficult to come up with this prompt and to really make sure that the agent follows a specific workflow. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to use a new feature from Vapi called workflows. Now I'm going to show you how we use that in 1 second, but I want to go over some of the things you can do with AI agents on this platform so you know that it's more versatile than purely what we're doing here. Now we have this transcriber model, for example. This will actually transcribe the call into text so we can view it afterwards. Of course, we can change the voice of our agent. There's all kinds of settings here. We can give functions or tools to our agent. We can also connect it to a phone number or have it forward calls to a particular phone number, like calling a real person. We have various advanced settings like compliance. And then if we go here, we can go to analysis. And this is quite cool because we can actually get the kind of LLM to analyze the transcription of the call and determine if it was successful or not based on the type of goal that we provided. We also can give it a prompt to take information from the call and pipe that into this structured output, which we can then get as well kind of the output or the result of the call and use it in some kind of coding environment, API, whatever it may be. Again, if you want details on this specific agent, you can check out that video. But for now, what we're going to do is go on create new agent or create assistant. Sorry, I keep calling it agent, assistant, same thing. So let's go create assistant from up here. And you can see there's various templates. Now I'm just going to go with the blank template and I'm going to call this order management. Okay, so let's go create assistant, and from here we can start filling in a bunch of these details. Now, because we're going to use this new feature from Vapi, which is currently in open beta called workflows, the first thing we're going to do is change our provider here to the Vapi provider. When we do that, you'll see the latency goes way down, and then what we can do is attach a workflow to this assistant. So we're going to go attach workflow. We're going to give this workflow a name. I'm just going to call this, order management, so it's the same thing. And then go create workflow. So from here, you'll see that things work a little bit differently. And rather than having a massive system prompt like I showed you previously, we have these blocks that we can connect. So we have a say block, pretty straightforward. This is the agent speaking. We have gather, this is gathering information. We can send an API request, and later in the video, we're going to actually write our own API in Python that this assistant can use. You can transfer the call, end the call, and then you have a conditional block so you can specify what to do based on particular output. So to start, we're going to go to this say block, and you have the option to have a prompt or to have exact. Now, if you have a prompt, you can tell the agent what you want it to do in natural language, and then it will just come up with what it should say. But sometimes you want it to exactly say something, which is what I want to do for the first message. So I'm just going to paste this in here where it says, welcome to Tech with Tim's Merch Shop. I'm here to help you with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you. So that's our first message, and obviously we're doing that because we're going to build kind of like this order status system where you can call in and you can see what the status of your order is, whether it's delivered, shipped, what the shipping address is. I'm just coming up with a relatively simple example here, and then you guys can obviously change and extend this. But the point is that we're going to collect the order number from the user. We're going to do that after this. We're then going to send that order number to our API. We're going to see if this order actually exists or not. If it does, we're going to give the user some information about it. Otherwise, we're going to tell them, hey, we couldn't find this order. Do you want to look something else up? So relatively simple, but it will show you how to use this workflow feature. So we have say, and then after that, we're going to go and add a gather block. Now, this is what you use when you want to collect information from the user. So what we can do is we can specify the fields of the data that we want to collect. Now, in this case, we just want to collect an order number. So we'll just specify order number, and then we can give a description which the model will use to kind of fill in this field. So I'm going to say a 3-digit order number from the customer. Okay, and then I'm going to specify that this output is required, which means we're going to sit on this step and keep asking the user for this number until they provide something to us. Now, of course, we can specify other fields that we want to collect here as well, but for now, I just want to take the order number. Okay, now after the order number, what I want to do is have another say, and in this say, I'm just going to tell them, hey, we're looking up this order number, so I'm going to say in exact, I'll say, thanks. Well, I'll look up, let's go I'll look up order number, and then I'm actually going to embed a variable here. So I can press this button and I can embed the order number variable. I'll look up order number, whatever this is, please wait. Okay, so that's it for this say. And then next, what I want to do is I actually want to send an API request to my API so I can get this order number. Now, if you're unfamiliar with APIs, these are essentially a web resource that you can send some kind of request to, and they'll give you a response. In this case, our request will just say, hey, we're looking for this particular order, and then the response will give us all of the order details if that order exists. Now, this is something that we'll write ourselves, but of course you can use any API here, whether it's public, whether it's private, as long as you have the right access controls. So for now, we don't have a real API. So what I'm going to do is just put in a fake one. So something like techwithtim.net/orders, and then we'll change this URL later to be the real URL of our API. We're going to keep the method as post, but you can also have a get request as well. And then we're going to specify some headers. Now, the header that we want here is going to be content type application JSON. We need this because we're going to be sending JSON data to the API, but you also could specify various other headers here like access tokens or whatever you need in order to communicate with the API. If this is confusing, don't worry, just follow along with what I'm doing. I'm going to show you how we make the API later, and this will make more sense. Now, in the body of our request, what we can do is specify the order number. So we're going to say order number like this. And for the value, we're going to actually put in a variable, and that's going to be the order number that we collected from the user. There's also a description, and we can specify the type. We're going to leave the type as string, and we don't need a description for right now. And we'll go ahead and press save. So what would happen now is as soon as this say command is finished, it's going to go ahead and send this API request, and then it's going to wait to get the response. Once it gets the response, we can then use variables from the response in the rest of our flow. And that's where this next tab, output, comes in. So this will just go ahead and send the request, and you don't need to specify any output variables. But if you want to collect data from the response, then you need to specify what output values you want to collect. So if I go to output here, I'm going to specify keys of data that will be in the response JSON. So we send a request, we get some response back, that response has some data, and that's what we're going to be kind of looking through here when we have this key and this target. Now, what we can do is we can say something like, okay, we're going to collect, an order number back in the response, and then we're going to map this to a variable called order number. So the key is the key that's going to be in the response, and then the target is now what we're going to name that variable and use in our workflow. So you can just leave these the same. You don't don't need to change these values, but make sure that you have the type correct. So in this case, this will be string. Okay, now we're also going to have another key here. So we'll have something like the customer name, and then we'll say customer name here and press save. And again, what I'm doing is I'm writing all of the values that are going to be in my response that I want to collect and then use later in my code or in my flow. So I'm going to have some status. We'll have status. Again, we don't need to write the description. We're going to have something like the total underscore amount. Okay, and then again, this can be total amount. This is going to be a number because this will be the price of the order. We then can have another key. We can say something like the order date. And then again, this can be order date. These are popping up because I tested with this previously. So order date, this will be a string. And then anything else that we need, we're going to get the shipping address. Okay, so shipping address, and then shipping address, that can be a string. And then lastly, we're going to take in some error because it's possible that we'll have some error in our request and we want to know what that is so we can tell the user. Okay, so we're just writing all of the different fields that we expect in our response. And then after this API request, I now can take this data and I can pass this to something like a dynamic prompt and have the model respond. So I'm going to have another say. And for the say this time, I'm going to copy in a long prompt. Okay, so just bear with me. I'll make this available from the link in the description in the GitHub repository that will contain some of the code for this project. So this time in my say, rather than using exact, I used prompt. And then notice what I did is I embedded all of these variables that correspond with the output variables that I had in my API request. So I said, using the following order details, provide a clear and concise update. And then I gave the error, the order number, the customer name, all of this information. And then I gave it some response guidelines. So I said, if the order exists, then we're going to do this, start with friendly greetings, summarize the order, if shipped, provide the tracking information, etc. And if no order data is available, which is possible because the order may not be found, then we want to inform the user and ask them if they want to try again. We then have this here. We say offer two options, yes to retry or no to exit. And I said you cannot assist with anything else just so it knows it's specifically doing what I asked it to do. So you can write the prompt however you want, but the ending part is pretty important. So this right here, ask them if they want to try again by providing a new order number, yes or no. Okay, so we have that prompt. Again, I'll make that available from the GitHub that will have the code for this project. And then after this, I'm going to have another gather. Now I'm going to show you how this works, but in the gather, I'm going to have the field here, which is going to say continue underscore call. We're going to make this required. And then for the description of this, I'm going to say if the user has indicated they want to continue the call, okay, let's see, by saying something like yes, or if they don't want to continue by saying something like no or bye. Okay, and we're going to change this type here to be a Boolean. So pretty much what we're doing is we're saying, hey, we want to gather this information based on what the user has said here, what they reply to after this say statement. So should we continue the call or not? Okay, and this is going to be required. This will be a Boolean. And the reason I'm collecting this data is so I know if I should tell the user, hey, like goodbye, or if I should ask them to input another order number. So this is kind of the way that you can collect something like a Boolean. Again, we have this description. If the user has indicated they want to continue the call by saying something like yes, or if they don't want to continue by saying something like no or bye, and then the model will figure out whether this Boolean should be true or false. So now after this, we're going to have a condition. Okay, and then after the conditional block, we have to add another block. So I'm going to have a say statement. And in the say statement, I can say, cool, talk to you later. Okay. And then I can have another block here, and I'm going to have a say statement. I'm going to say, please enter another, let's go here, order number. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this say block all the way up here to my first gather. So we can actually have this kind of looping structure where we can reuse parts of the flow. I know it's a little bit hard to read here, but the point is after we got the order information, we said, okay, do we want to continue the call or not? If we don't, we're going to say cool, talk later, Otherwise, we're going to say, please enter another order number. And then we're going to go up here and we're going to gather the order number and just repeat this exact same flow. Now you might be saying, okay, that looks great, but have we actually put in the conditions? And I realize we have not. So in order to make the condition, you can press on this logic button here. And for the logic, you can have all or any. So like and or if you're doing a condition. And we can add a condition. So I'm going to say all, and then I'm going to say the continue call is equal to false. So if the continue call is equal to false, then we're going to go here. Otherwise, I need to click on this logic. Same thing. We're going to say continue call is equal to true. Then we're going to go ahead and do this. Now we also have not. We have, depending on the type of variable, we have, contains, not, all of these kinds of things. If it's a string, if it's a number, etc., you get different values. In this case, continue call equals true. Then we go on this side. Otherwise, we go on this side. Okay, so that's pretty much the entire workflow. Of course, there's more stuff that we can add here. We could transfer the call, etc. And actually, the last thing that I am remembering is that we want to end the call. So after we say, cool, talk later, we can add this hang up or this end call button, and this will just automatically end the call. Sweet. So I'm going to save this. Now, once I save this, I can go back to my assistants. So let's go to our order management assistant. And I'm just going to quickly change the voice to something that's a little bit more natural. And then we can actually test this directly from the web UI. And then I'll show you how we can connect to it from something like Python. Okay, so we have our provider, which is 11 Labs, and I'm actually going to add a manual voice ID, and I'll leave this voice ID in the description in case you want to use this one. Now, this is a voice that I just know works well, so give me 1 second to copy it in. Okay, so here it is. Again, I'll leave it in the description so you can just copy it, and I'm also going to change the model to be 11 Turbo V2 because this one just works a little bit better. Now, you'll see there's slightly higher latency, but it just gives you kind of a more natural sound typically. Again, you can change this if you want. You can use any voice from like any type of provider. I'm just using 11 Labs, and then I'm using this 11 Turbo V2. There's all kinds of other settings here. Again, I'm not going to get into all of them in this video. Okay, so now that we have this set up and we've connected to this workflow, this order management workflow, we can add all these other tools if we want, or we can just press on Talk with Assistant. Now, this might take a second to load, so let's just press the button, wait for it to load, and see if this works.
Welcome to Tech with Tim's Merch Shop. I'm here to help with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you.
My order number is 101.
Thanks. I'll look up order number 101. Please wait. Hi there. Thanks for your patience. I've looked up your order details. Order number 101. Order status. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find an order with that number. Would you like to try again with a different order number? You can say yes to retry or no to exit.
No, thanks. Okay, so you can see there that it just ended the call. Okay, so it says exiting meeting because the room was deleted, and that's because I told it no, I don't want to continue, so it just went ahead and ended the call. So that's kind of how that works. Now we can test this again. Obviously, we can go through many different flows. And of course, at this point, it's not able to look up the order number because our API is not working properly, right? Like I have this going to my website, which is not going to work for /orders. So the next natural step here would be to actually write the API endpoint so that we're able to collect this data. So that's what we're going to do next, but you can just mess around with these flows. You can test everything purely from the website, which is really useful. And then of course, you can integrate this with code. So what we're going to do for the next steps of the video is we're going to write that Python API. We're going to connect it to Vapi. Then we're going to write a really simple piece of React code or like a React website that will allow us to use this voice assistant from the web. Now, I also will really quickly show you, since I'm here, you can very easily connect this to a phone number. So if you go to phone numbers, you can go on create new phone number, and then you can just make a new number. You can give this an area code. So what do I have? Something like 415. Okay. And you can press on create. It will then make a new free number for you, or you can import one from Twilio or Vonage, and then you can connect these phone numbers to agents. So in my case, I have this phone number connected to one of my test agents right now, but you could simply just change which one you want to connect it to, and then you can literally just call this phone number and it will just work, and you can talk to your agent. That's it. That's all I did when I did that quick demo for you and I was calling the agent before. I made a free phone number, just simply connected it to my assistant, and that was it. Now, obviously there's more settings here, but that's the basics on how that works. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to go over to my editor. I want to start writing some Python code, and I want to make an API that we can use from Vapi. All right, so I'm here inside of Visual Studio Code. You can use any code editor that you want, and I am going to assume that you have a little bit of knowledge of Python here. Now, I won't go super fast, but this isn't designed to be an API tutorial. So if you want to learn a lot more about APIs, I have many videos on this channel that will kind of walk you through this process in depth. Anyways, you can still totally follow along with the tutorial, or you could just copy all of the code that I'm about to write from the GitHub repo that I'll attach in the description. First things first though, I'm gonna make a file called api.py. Okay, I then am going to install Flask because Flask is the framework that we're gonna use for building this API. So it's very simple to install this, assuming you already have Python on your system. You can open up a terminal. So I have a terminal or command prompt here, and you can type pip install Flask like this, okay? So pip install Flask, this should install the Flask framework for you, and then you should be able to use it. Now, if that pip command doesn't work, you can try pip3. That's if you're on Mac or Linux, that should work for you. Or you can do python-m and then pip install Flask, or python 3-m pip install Flask, and that should get it set up for you. You also can use a virtual environment if you're familiar with that, but I'm not gonna walk through that step in this video. Okay, so from the top of our code, you're gonna see this is super basic. We can say from Flask import, and we're gonna import Flask, JSONify. Okay, we gotta spell that correctly. And we're gonna import request. Okay, we then are going to say app is equal to Flask, and we're gonna put inside of here __name, __, and then we can write a very simple endpoint. So to do that, we can say @app.root. We can have this be called something like /orders. Then we can specify the methods that we want to accept here. In this case, we want to have a post request being sent to this particular endpoint. And then we can define a Python function, so something like get orders. And then inside of here, we can return some data. So we can return something like JSONify, and then I can just have something like a Python dictionary. And in this Python dictionary, I can return something like an order. Now my autocomplete is kind of going crazy here. I don't want to actually follow along with what this is doing, so let me disable that quickly and I'll be right back. Okay, apologies about that. I know it makes it a little bit difficult to read, but what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're gonna have this /orders endpoint. This means we'll go to, some URL /orders, and then we'll send a post request, and then we can return some data. Now the data that we return, we typically want to get from something like a database, but in this case, just to test this out and make sure that it works, we can just return kind of some fake data. So inside of this dictionary here, I can just pass some values. So I can say something like, order number is equal to 1. We can have something like, customer _name is equal to John Doe. We can have, again, this, I don't know why my autocomplete is kicking in here, even though I disabled it. We can have order date. We can have something like the total _amount, is equal to 100. And then of course, this needs to be a string. And then all of the other fields that we were going to specify. So we want to have something like status, again, as a string. This can be, pending. And then we can have the shipping address. Keep forgetting that this needs to be in a string. So shipping _address, and be equal to something like this, 123 Main Street, New York. Okay, so now if we were to call this API, which I'll show you in 1 second, it would return this JSON data. This JSON data we could then use from Vapi in our kind of prompt, and then we could tell the user, information about their order. But of course, the user is actually going to submit an order number to us. So we want to accept that order number and then use that order number to look up some data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say data is equal to request.get _JSON. This is going to get the JSON data that is sent to this endpoint. And I'm going to say if data is none, then I'm going to return an error. So I'm going to say return JSONify, and I'm going to pass an error. Okay, and this error is going to say invalid JSON like that. And then I'm going to do comma 400. Now this comma 400 specifies the status code of the request. The status code here, 400, means bad request, which means this was sent like kind of unsuccessfully or improperly. Next, I'm going to say if the order number is not in the data, then same thing. I'm going to return JSONify, missing order number. And this actually is going to be order number without the underscore. And then same thing, bad request, 400. So this data is the data that's being sent. We're going to look for this order number inside of the data to make sure that we get that. And then what I can do here is say my order underscore number is equal to data order number. And I can simply just print the order number here and then change the order number in my JSONified response to be the order number. Okay, that's literally all that we need for this endpoint. Of course, we can connect this to something like a database, which we'll do in 1 second. But for now, we're just gonna return some kind of fake data just to make sure that this actually works. Okay, we then can say if underscore underscore name underscore underscore is equal to underscore underscore main underscore underscore, and then we can say app.run and then debug equals true. Okay, now what this is going to allow us to do is just run this locally on our own computer. So we'll have this simple API endpoint / orders, which will be running from our Flask server. And if we send an order number to this, we'll get back kind of this fake data for the order. Now, this is not going to be all that we need to do because there's the next step in 1 second. But for now, let's test this and make sure that it works by running Python and then api.py. When we do that, we should see that we get that this Flask server is running in development mode on this particular port, and then we can send requests to this. Okay, so this is great. However, this is only running locally, which means our Vapi assistant, which is running on the internet, is not going to be able to actually access this. So what we're going to use here is something called Ngrok. Now let me just bring this on screen so you guys can see what it looks like. Now Ngrok is essentially kind of a port forwarding proxy service that allows you to have kind of a fake temporary URL that will then redirect information to something locally running on your own computer. Now I'm not sure how I just got this error message here, but what we can do is we can install this tool. It will then give us this kind of temporary URL that's typically used for testing. And if we send any data to this temporary URL, it can forward it to our own local API. So this local API running on localhost, like I can't access this from another computer, but if I run this ngrok command, which you're going to see in 1 second, it will allow us to send a request to ngrok, and then ngrok will send a request to this local server and then send the response back. So it acts like a proxy, and it's really great for testing development APIs, which is what we're doing right here. Okay, so for Ngrok, we do need to install this. So I'm going to leave this link in the description. And again, you need to change to Windows, Mac, Linux, etc., and install this. Now you can see that I'm on Windows, so I'm going to follow along with this tools that it has here. If you're on Mac, then you would change this to Mac, and again, follow along with these steps. Okay, now what you do need to do is make a new account on Ngrok. So please do that because you're going to need this authorization token in order to use the Ngrok services that you're going to have to add to your terminal. Now I'm going to blur this token so you guys don't see it, and we're going to run these commands. So on Windows, we install Ngrok using this. Okay, so we can go and open up a new terminal, and we can say choco install Ngrok. Okay, do we want to continue? Yes, we do with Y. It's then going to install this. Now you can see I already have this installed. Now the next step is to run this command with our auth token. So let's go ahead and do that and run that in our terminal and add the authorization token. Okay, and then lastly, it tells us that we're going to run ngrok http and then the link to the API that we're running or where we want to forward this traffic to. So we can just copy this, but we're going to change the 8080 to be port 5000, which is where our server is running. So we're going to say ngrok http localhost port 5000. 5000 is the port of our server. You can see that if we go here because it says port 5000. And then if I hit enter here, you're going to see that it creates this temporary URL. And this URL is what we can use to actually send requests to our local server. So I know this is a little bit weird if you've never seen this before, and I'm going through this pretty quickly, but we have this forwarding URL. So what we want to do is copy this forwarding URL, and this will give us access to this local API. So you need to make sure that Ngrok is running as well as your Python server. And then what you can do is we can go over here to Vapi. We can go to our API request, and we can put in this URL and change the endpoint to be /orders. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and press on save. And then what this will do now is it will send the request from Vapi to our Python API, and then it will kind of take that request data. So we can actually test this out by going to Assistants, going to Order Management, and then running this. So let's go talk with Assistant.
Welcome to Tech with Tim's Merch Shop. I'm here to help with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you.
My order number is 101.
Thanks, I'll look up order number 101. Please wait. Hey there, I found your order details. You placed an order on January 1st, 2020 with order number 101. The status is currently pending, and it looks like the shipping address is 123 Main St. New York, NY10030. The total price for the order is $100. Since it's pending, it should be processed soon.
Okay, so you can see that's working. And actually, if we go back here, you can see that I now have a request/orders that has hit my Flask API, and Ngrok is what's responsible for forwarding that request. Now, of course, this is not fully finished because we'd want to connect this to something like a database. So let's quickly do that. I'm just going to copy in the code, which again, I will make available from the link in the description. And then I will show you how we can run this agent from something like React. So what I've just done here is I've made this db.py file where I've just have kind of this class here, this data class for representing an order. And then I have various orders that I'm storing in this kind of fake database. Okay, so you can see we have order 103, 102, 101, just to make this a little bit more legit. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this file from my api.py. Again, you don't need to write any of this code. You can just bring it in from that GitHub repo that I leave down below. So I'm going to say from database, bring in the orders database. And I'm just going to adjust this code slightly to now look up the order number from my orders database. So after I get the order number, I'm going to say if the order number is in the orders DB, then what I'm going to do is say my order is equal to ordersdb.get. And I'm going to get the order number. Okay, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to adjust this to be returning all the information about my order. So for the order number, I'm going to say this is order dot order number. I'm going to say this is order dot customer name. For the date, I'm going to say this is order dot order date. Okay, for the amount, this is going to be order dot, and then what do we call this? Total amount. For the status, this will be order dot status. And then for the shipping address, this will be order dot shipping address. Okay. And then lastly, we'll just have a simple return statement here. And we're going to say JSONify, and we're going to say, error. Okay. Like this, order not found. And then we'll return a 404 indicating, 404 not found. Okay, so we've just adjusted this now to use this database. So we now have kind of some more dynamic orders. So if we were to go use the agent now, only if we give it order number 101, 102, or 103, will it actually work. Now this should have automatically refreshed for us. I believe it did. So there's nothing that we need to change here. And we can just try using the agent, and now we'll be connecting to this real database. Okay, so all of that is great. However, I want to show you how we can run this code now from a front end so we can actually use this in our own website. So I've just loaded up the Vapi documentation, and you can see here that there's various client as well as server SDKs. Now, I show this much more in depth in the other video that I have on this channel, so I'm going to link that on screen so you can check it out, but I'm just going to really quickly walk you through how to do this so that you can get this running in your own React front end. Now, you can see we have integrations for iOS, Flutter, Python, React Native, etc. Now, we're going to do this in React. So to do this in React, you can see that literally all you need to do is just install this @Vapi AI/web package. From there, you can import Vapi, you can give it your public key, and then you can simply start an assistant by providing the assistant ID. You can then stop the assistant with .stop. So I'm not sure exactly where that command is, but that is what it is, .stop. And then there's various other things that you can do here that are all inside of the documentation. Again, all of this stuff I go through much more in depth in the other video, but I'm going to show you in just like 2 minutes here how you can do it in React. I'm not going to code it all out for you, but I'm going to show you a quick code sample, so stay tuned. So I just created a simple React application here, and you can see that I now have this front end folder. I did this by just using that kind of create React app command, or the create v command, the new one that exists. And then if I go to my package.json, you can see that I've installed the Vapi AI/web package. So I just did npmi vapi-ai/web. Then what I did is I went to src, I went to app.tsx, and I just wrote some really simple code here to get my AI assistant running. You can see that what I've done is I've initialized Vapi using my public key. I'm going to show you how you get that in just 1 second. Then what I did is I created this app component, and I just made 2 simple functions, start call and stop call. What start call does is says vapi.start, and then it just passes the assistant that I want to start. Then I have vapi.stop, and it just stops the assistant that's currently running. And I made a very simple user interface that has a start call button and a stop call button, and tells you if the call is currently in progress. So first, let's fill in these values to just make sure they're correct. I'll show you where we get these from, and then I can actually show you running this front end. So if I go back to my dashboard, I can go to the Vapi API keys here. So build, assistance, Vapi API keys, okay. Now we don't want the private key. This is what we would use in our backend, but we want the public key. This is something that you can pass to the client SDKs, and it's okay if this information is leaked. Okay, so I'm gonna go copy ID, and then I would just paste that right here. Okay, and you can see that it hasn't changed. Then in terms of the assistant ID, it's not what I want. I don't want Ngrok, I want my Vapi one, okay? We can go to assistants, we can go to order management, for example, and we can just go here to assistant ID and simply copy that assistant, okay? Or copy that assistant ID. Then we can paste that here, and you see that will change because I was messing around with a different assistant previously. Okay, so that's literally it. That's how you start it. Like that's all you have to do. Install this, right? Bring in this package, and you can start or you can stop. And now if I want to run my React application, I can say cd frontend, npm run dev. Okay, and then this is gonna run. So I'm gonna open this up. You can see now this is what it looks like. And let's press start call and see if this works. Okay, so you can see it's asking for my microphone, so let's say allow while visiting.
Welcome to Tech with Tim's merch shop. I'm here to help with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you.
Okay, cool. So that's working. However, it's using the wrong voice. I'm not sure why that's the case. I must have accidentally changed the thing. All right, so I saw that this is using the wrong voice. So sorry guys, I forgot to press this publish button. So if you want this to update when you're actually using it, like from the API, then you need to publish this. So I just published this, and now if we go back here and I press start call again, hopefully it will give us the correct voice.
Tech with Tim's merch shop. I'm here to help with any order inquiries. Just provide your order number and I'll be happy to assist you.
My order number is 107.
Thanks, I'll look up order number 107. Please wait. Hi there, thanks for your patience. I've looked into your order, but it seems there's no order associated with the number you provided. Would you like to try again with a different order number? Just let me know if you want to retry or if you'd like to exit.
Yes, let's try again.
Sure thing. Just give me the order number and we'll get started.
103.
Thanks, I'll look up order number 103. Please wait. Hi there, Bob. I have an update on your order. Order number 103 has been shipped. Your order was placed on March 17th, 2024, and the total price came to $324.98. It's on its way to 789 Pinard, Chicago, IL 60601. If you need tracking information, I can help with that as well. Just let me know.
Okay, cool. So you can see that that's now working. Obviously the voice has updated and we're using it from the front end. Now I know I didn't walk you through this step by step again. That's because I have an in-depth tutorial showing you exactly how to do this that I will point you to. But the point is we now have this AI voice assistant. It's using our Python API. You can actually see some of the requests coming in here. Some of them successful, some of them 404 because if it's an order number that it doesn't recognize, etc. And all of this is done. Now obviously you would want to push this API to production if you would want this to work, persistently, because Ngrok is just something used for testing this locally. But if you wanted to get this out, and you actually wanted a production application, you would deploy this API, you would then change the URL in Vapi, and you would be good to go. That's it, guys. That is going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.